Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nightlight. My name is Tom Snarski, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our 30-second Nightlight poetry reading event. I'm so delighted this evening to be welcoming a brilliant group of poets and writers. You're going to hear work tonight from Nat Raum, Travis Shosa, Elena Zhang, and Stephanie Anderson. In case you haven't listened in before, Nightlight is a reading series featuring poets and writers in a monthly Zoom, usually on the third Thursday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're on social media at Nightlight Poems on Twitter and night_light_poems_ on Instagram, where we hype up our readings and we also post recordings of the events when they go up on our YouTube channel. So thanks very much if you're joining us from the future. All right, so I'm really excited to get things going, letting folks in from the waiting room. Really excited to hype up our readers tonight and to get things going with a returning reader to Nightlight, somebody I'm very, very excited to be welcoming back in Nat Rom. Nat Rom is a queer disabled artist, writer, and editor based on unceded Piscataway and Susquehannock land in Baltimore. They're the author of Origin Trilogy, Journal of Various Worries, and many other titles. You can find them online at natram, natraum.com, and you can also hear them read right now. Thanks for coming back, Nat. We're excited to hear you read tonight.
Hey squad, excited to see everybody. I've got like new shit is a very relative term for me because I'm sitting on a lot of stuff right now. So it's like there's a lot of things the world has not seen, but like exist and are not necessarily new, but are probably new to many of you. So I'm gonna read a lot of stuff like that tonight. So I don't think there's like a fun, snappy chant for that one, but either way. This first piece I'm going to read was published in a magazine called The Light Ekphrastic, which, if you're not familiar, just basically they pair artists with writers and you create an ekphrastic poetry collaboration with a visual artist if you are a writer or with a poet if you are the visual artist. And it's super cool. So this is the piece that I gave my visual artist, Michelle Spazieri. It is called Eternal Return as Dr. Salvador's Chainsaw. And it is after Resident Evil 4. What is a chain if not a loop? And what is a loop if not a kind of violence? Sisyphus was not known for having it easy, and Ouroboros means destruction too. And until we locate the source of the epidemic, so too will a parasite multiply, clone itself across bodies until village elder wields a chainsaw, face wrapped in burlap sack. What is parasitism if not symbiosis? Symbiosis if not a bond if not love? I can't be trusted with these questions. I will tell you anything is love if it manages to attach itself to my vital organs. The first in the chain of men I should have run from did not wield any weapon but a few choice words. And again, and again, and again. Awesome. Um, this I would classify what I'm about to read as like proper new shit. So I read Maria Zoccola's Helen of Troy last year, like kind of towards the tail end of the year. And I don't know if anyone here has read this collection, but it is absolutely fantastic. It envisions Helen of Troy as like a Southern housewife, which I just think is like such a wonderful framing. And I got really inspired when I read that, and I kind of thought about like writing my own fanfic, for lack of a better way of saying it. And I wrote a series of persona poems based on Iris von Everec from the Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone expansion. So this is Iris von Everec cleans her palate. The apple to his left is slowly rotting. The grapes have lost waxy shells, silver goblet tarnished. I paint in shades of brilliant cadmium, phthalo mixed with titanium to cover obvious dulling. I turn up the corners of his grimace, inventing laugh lines. We were and we were and we were until we weren't. I strip the thick glass panel of its color splotches, knife first, until all that remains is burnt umber, creeping in like shadows across an unfinished portrait. All right. This next one is like a really drastic vibe shift, but I think in a very fun way. This is from a manuscript I have been trying to home forever, and was first published by Jake, the magazine. This is Your Honor, I Did It for the Vine. I did it for the giant bonus card. I did it for all those chickens. I did it because I was told by AppleCare that I could walk in the store and get the part. I did it for the hi, welcome to Chili's guy who died at 24. I did it for the Girafe in my house, for my Crocs, for the two bros chilling in a hot tub 5 feet apart because they're not gay. I did it because you almost made me drop my croissants, because I've never been to Uvu Java, because I don't get why you're in a big time rush. Wouldn't you do it for Jared, age 19, who never learned how to fucking read? For a butt cheek on a stick, for when life gives you lemons, for Jones barbecue and foot massage. Because iridocyclitis, because it's Raven's birthday and she can't swim, because I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids, because I'm still a piece of garbage. That one's always so much fun to read. I always have to throw it in every now and then. Um, I have three more poems that are all on the kind of short side. This next one is from a chapbook that I just published with Troublemaker Firestarter, called Dry Stoner, which is about my kind of complicated relationship with substances as a recovering alcoholic. And basically, this poem is about something that I've discussed with a bunch of my friends who are like in and out of sobriety from alcohol, called the alcoholic urge to survive, which is basically just this idea that like people who have substance use problems are like just there's this like type of survival that like I don't really know how to describe other than that like keeping yourself alive becomes a very different sort of animal. And the poem kind of gets into this a little bit. So this is the alcoholic urge to survive. I didn't coin the phrase, don't know, don't remember where I saw it first, but goddamn if it ain't the honest truth that no one survives like us. The select few frozen in the amber of our own bad decisions and overdrawn bank accounts. The desperate droves of beer guzzlers who can rearrange anything for a drink or three. Or maybe those of us that are so up against our limit that we play Jenga to keep ourselves alive every night, manage to succeed so much of the time that rock bottom doesn't really feel like rock bottom anymore, more like a temporary resting place for the shame we bat constantly into the air like we're kids and it's a dying balloon. Except we're the balloon and our hands are each drink we take from the bar top, the counter, the cabinet, budget be damned. There is never money for food, but there is always for drink. Always a shift beer and sometimes two, always drinks after or across the street or around the bend, halfway across town in some coked up dude's station wagon, and here we are still alive, alight. Right. This one was just published yesterday, in Frozen Seas, 12th issue. And is a super, super, it's not a fun poem. I was about to say it's a super fun poem. I don't know. This was part of a fun series of poems that I wrote when I was at a residency in February, where I was dealing with a lot of things. And if you would like more insight into those things, Elena actually picked up a piece from this sort of same series for Had. So thank you for that. But this is a different one, kind of in the same realm, thinking about like asexuality emerging as a trauma response. Self-defense as celibacy. A poem has to feel like a thunderstorm these days. I'm so numb. A friend says something about touch is humanizing, and I just slip further and further into being something else. A decade ago, I would swing whichever way someone told me to. Now I swing all directions with a sword. The very same blade which clipped me back down to bruised kneecaps, the time never right. It happened again. Then it happened again. By cleaving number five, I pirouetted back, grabbed the hilt by its rubied inlays, and thrust it firmly in the direction of my worst nightmares. I stole the saber. There was nothing worse than the thought I might one day be defenseless. Right. My last poem is from a series of poems that I just refer to as angry trans poems, but it is really my chapbook with gasoline that came out with Kith Books last year. which is a chapbook of angry trans poems. So if that appeals to you, you should read With Gasoline. But this one is aptly titled "The Poem for Drinking Down That Gin and Kerosene." My fire spit slicks bridges for miles, I swear to you. I am through with structures that seek only to support their kin. If my refusal to go on like this forever means I must build a town of my own edifices, so be it. I want baby blue and cotton candy pink banners strung up between the bank and the fire station. I want no cops, including the ones in your head. In chemistry class, we mixed metals with Bunsen burner flames, made a rainbow of elements. May copper and rubidium ions decide to salt the surface of this planet, cause a flurry of proud flames when the first Molotov cocktail hits the spans. I am past renewal, past peaceful assimilation. We must destroy to rebuild a world that could hold us. Thank you all.
Nice. What a beautiful start, Nat. Thank you so much for bringing chemistry class and angry trans poems into the space. We're glad to have them and glad to have you. That again was Nat Rom, who you can find online at natrom.com. I'll be dropping the links into the Zoom chat. And if you're watching from the future, you can type natraum.com into your browser and find all of Nat's amazing publications, including their monthly newsletter, which you can sign up for to keep abreast of all the good stuff that's going on. And Nat is also findable on social media at Great Earl of Hell, GR number eight, EARLOFHELL, sometimes with .bsky.social if you're on the blue sky over there. Thank you so much, Nat, and really excited to be introducing our next reader, who I'm excited. I feel like this is a really lovely reading in part because there's so many constellations. Like Nat mentioned that Elena accepted some stuff for HAD, and then also we got some Baltimore representation. Nat and Stephanie are Baltimore folks, and we got to meet at AWP, which is really cool in Stephanie's case. And in this case, I'm really excited to introduce somebody who I got to read with in Baltimore, in Travis Shosa. Travis Shosa's poems and stories are featured or forthcoming at Maudlin House, Stanchion, Bruiser, Burial, Eulogy Press, Bull, The Bulb Region, Some Words, and others. They run Dodo Eraser, a wonderful lit mag and reading series who had a real presence at AWP. And Travis, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to hear you bring the house down.
Thanks, Tom. So if you've been following me at all recently, all last year I started doing poetry, and that was very much the main focus. And recently, oddly enough, after I kind of agreed to do on this, I got on a fiction kick. So I'm going to do a little bit of a mix set. I've got a straight up poem, I've got a story that could be called a prose poem, and then I have a longer flash piece that I just finished this morning, and I'm going to close with that, and that is unpublished, obviously. So the first one I'm going to read is a poem called Face Turn. It's from an in progress poetry manuscript. It was recently published at Electric Pink, which is a great new place. And this is a wrestling poem. I'm a big wrestling fan, and that manuscript is very much about masking. So doing a little bit of lucha kind of made sense. So this is Face Turn. A gringo buried under 10 tons of lucha libre masks. I am the Rudo, evil edition El Generico. Muchos gracias, as the Booker man lets me pull your skin off. Texan and don't speak a lick of Spanish. I took French to commune with my fellow fake. It's fitting my faux French accent sounds like the truth is stuck in my throat, though I'm sick of sick of choking on myself. Can't wrestle anything under these layers of lycra and vinyl. Psychosis and Mysterio, the former second Black Tiger, all dropped the facade at some point. Hell, Guerrero was honest scum. And all I want is to lie, cheat, steal, and hear the people cheer like I'm Guerrero. Puff my chest out and shimmy. Scream, Viva la raza! La raza being my social hucksters from other madres. Die young and beloved, no one holding anything against me, but this work hasn't been working and I'm considering a face turn. All I want is to strut from the right tunnel to some corny song I love, like Hold On by Wilson Phillips, pop the pyro, get my shit kicked, rally back, throw caution to the wind, earn that pin, but I've not earned that earnestness yet. Here's the thing I've learned from years of wrestling. If you want to turn face, you need to show yours first. All right, so that's the straight up poem. Next one that I'm gonna read is called Clock Shop. This was recently published in the Bulb region by Sarp, who's a great guy, and you should submit to the Bulb region. Really beautiful new magazine. Tom's been in it. I know Nat is going to be in it or has been in it. I can't remember. You're on the list. Um, but this recently got published, and this is a short flash piece. You could call it a prose poem. My wife and I were at the clock shop, which was suspiciously devoid of clocks, suspiciously devoid of anything but us. We'd agreed to meet for one last hour, namely the witching hour. When she checked her pocket, her phone was gone. Maybe this is a sign, I said with the confidence of an aardvark. She said, this is the absence of a sign. There is nothing in this room. I said, maybe it's a sign our time has run out. That's called reverse psychology. She chuckled like an angel, and I wanted to stuff it in my pocket. But my pockets were chock full of clocks. Grandfathers, grandmothers, the daddy and mommy, aunts, uncles, cousins, the brothers and sons, the sisters and daughters. So much family jammed down the deep, dark wells affixed to my pants. And of course the wife clock, of course the phone, because that's the man I am. Not untrusting, but just weak at the idea that she always needed to check how much time she was spending. But if I wanted to pocket her angel chuckle, I would need to make room. I fished out the wife clock from the bottom of myself and presented it piously as an offering to my angel. Emotion welled up within me and got stuck in my throat, so I compressed my chest once, twice, thrice, and up and out came the Ben 10 Omnitrix watch my wife gifted to me when we were 10. My wife knelt down and blew off the ectoplasm. The hands went tick, 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 until she wrapped the band around my ghostly hand and all the ticking stopped. The watch was not broken. This was the best it had ever worked. My wife and I held each other, and we knew that as soon as we left the clock shop, time would start again and likely pull us apart from each other. But in the clock shop, we had a moment, and we could make it last forever. Okay. And here's the long one. I just finished this one this morning. I sent it to the had call. Maybe you'll get it, maybe we won't. That's a hard had call. I'm still trying to crack that place. Still trying to crack it. But I think this story is really fun. It's a little bit longer. It's called Moon Story. I've been reading a lot of slander against the moon. I feel like there's a lot of historical slander against the moon. People blame the moon for all their problems. People want to blow up the moon. So this is kind of about that. Everyone is so mean to the moon. When I was in school, all the other kids called me Crater Face because I had these deep pockmarks. And they were not comparing me to Scorpion's gang leader and bad boy throb Leo Balmuto. I had no gang. I had no cha-cha. I had sadness. And then I got to thinking, the moon has no gang. The moon has no cha-cha. The moon, therefore, must be sad like me. In ninth grade English class, when we did sonnets, 6 entire children wrote sonnets blaming the moon for their emotional dysregulation. 6 entire children. No children, that is not on the moon. That is on your broken homes and neglectful parentage and new metal music and maybe a chemical imbalance and or deep-seated unresolved trauma. Put down that freak on a leash. Put down your pen you used to write your cruel moon sonnets and pick up a phone and schedule an appointment with a mental health professional. Ask them if you need Escalith or if it's just a puberty, but leave the moon out of it. In my senior year, a tsunami wiped out Fukuoka. The whole thing. And you know what they did? They blamed it on the moon. The moon does not cause tsunamis. The moon caused tidal waves. And scientists, they tried to explain this. They tried to explain that there was an underwater earthquake that was likely triggered by a rise in sea levels and that we were responsible for all the wet dead people. But no, nobody wants to take responsibility. It's so much easier to put it on the moon. It reminded me of the time Chet Mogmeister missed the game-winning shot at the regional basketball championship. He blamed it on being distracted by my pockmarks. Ridiculous. I was sitting at the back of the bleachers and I covered my face with my hands. And then a whole thing of gossip telephone happened and it turned into this thing where I was on the basketball team, but I got kicked off because I was a ball hog and I missed every shot in the championship game. And everyone said I was a disgrace to the school and they threw lunch meat at me. And Chet Mogmiser laughed and I cried and cried and cried. One time I thought about how easy it would be to buy an assault rifle. I could set up a VPN and research how to kill everyone online, and I could buy a gun, and I could shoot everyone, and I could steal the camera footage, and I could frame Chet Mogmiser with the AI deepfake technology, and I could scream, "How does it feel to be a crater face?" as the bullets punched holes into their smooth faces. But this is crazy. One, the AI deepfake technology, it could cause environmental things. It could do a catastrophe. And the people would just blame this on the moon. Counterproductive. Two, they would call me slash Chet a moon sympathizer. They would call me slash Chet a crazy moon terrorist. Counterproductive. But I had to do something. People were calling their congressmen, demanding they blow up the moon. Nobody calls their congressmen for anything. That's how serious this was. And luckily, Congress is very slow because they wanted to do it. The scientists said, "No, no, no, please do not do this. It will cause apocalyptic weather events." And the congressman said, "It's fine. Piccolo blew up the moon in Dragon Ball Z, and it saved the Earth from Gohan's rampage, and everything was fine." And the scientists said it was confirmed in Dragon Ball Kakarot that Piccolo didn't actually blow up the moon, but instead used a technique called illusion. And the congressman said that is not a canon source. We are going to blow up the moon after a lot of meetings. I had a plan, but I had to raise a lot of money fast. I launched a cryptocurrency called Fuck the Moon Coin. Moon was used as a slur at this time. That's why moon was spelled with U's instead of O's. And everyone was so mad about the moon that they thought investing in my cryptocurrency was anti moon activism. Ha! I became the world's first trillionaire. While Congress held their meetings, I took 18 wives and formulated a plan to save the moon forever. I would build the world's biggest rocket. I would pay scientists to build the world's biggest rocket, and we would load the rocket with as many bottles of Neutrogena pink grapefruit oil-free acne moisturizer as possible, and I would lather all the craters on the moon until the moon was smooth. My 18 wives, they said I was crazy. They said I was projecting, that I was so rich now that I could spread skincare awareness. I could make dermal grafts a human right, that this wasn't about the moon, it was about me. And I said, "I love you babies, but I will divorce all 18 of you before I give up on the moon." They said Congress won't blow up the moon. Congress never does anything. I said, "You don't understand. The moon is crying because everyone hates it." They said the moon can't hear what everyone is saying about it. I said, "You can feel it. You can feel when everyone hates you, and I can hear it. And I don't want to be here anymore. I want the moon to know someone cares." That's the story. All right, everybody, that's my time. I hope you thought that was fun. It's new. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Travis, for I'm still thinking about all the words that went into describing the specific Neutrogena product. Yes, until the moon is smooth is going to be my next, like, until the cows come home. That again was Travis Shosa, who you can find on social media in various places at Travis underscore Shosa, Travis underscore Shosa on Twitter and Instagram. Travis's website is travisshosaisdoingpoems.com, and Travis also edits and keeps running the amazing Dodo Eraser, dodoeraser.org, which publishes poetry, fiction, etc., and is also a reading series. Travis is also working on a poetry collection called Every Real Thing Must Risk a Touch, and a flash fiction collection called Great Losers. So keep your ear to the ground to the bright future that those will have, and knock on wood, Travis, read the head call, Godspeed. Those things, man. Uh, all right. Well, I'm really excited. We're at the halfway point, and it's a beautiful place. It's like right at the top of the mountain. I've been listening to Tunnel audiobook since the tunnel's been making it through the things. And there's this great moment where Gas is describing like being on top of the mountain. And it's like you're supposed to feel like you're on top of the world and you're really close to the ground. But he says it's like you're drunk with distances like a midge on the moon. And I'm like, what a perfect way to be at the top of the right after Travis's piece. And so excited to be entering the back half of the order and welcoming Elena Zhang to Nightlight. Elena Zhang is a Chinese American mother living in Chicago. She's the author of the micro chapbook The Moon, My Heart from Tiny Ren Lit in 2025, and her work can be found in Had, Wigleaf, and X-Ray, among other publications. Elena, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to read tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Just FYI, if you hear any screaming, that's just my 8-year-old. Um, I'm gonna start with reading a bunch of old stuff, and then I'll read a few new things at the end. So this first one is a poem that was published in Pete Smoke called Fridging Mothers. I have this warehouse that holds hundreds of fridges, and you can put your mothers inside the humming coffins for a small fee. Not to freeze your mothers, of course, but to keep them cold enough to preserve love your whole life. And you can visit them from time to time so you'll be able to remember the shape of their hands and the perfume of their skin. But you should know that eventually everyone stops visiting because the mothers, when they come out, are not the same. But trust me, it's all worth it in the end. And this next one was published in Bruiser, and it's called Autobiography. I was born in the feral cat capital city of the world. I worked as the resident nail clipper for years, until I was ousted for corruption. The mayor gave me the city key and told me to never return. Years later, my granddaughter stole my key and went to look for the feral cat capital city of the world. She never came back. When I close my eyes now, I can still hear the snips and the mews. Sometimes it's impossible to forget how soft everything used to be. Every night, something scratches on my bedroom door. I know this is how I'll die. Okay, this next one is called The Lotus, and it was published in Had. We were thirsty, but there were just too many damn babies in the well. Every time we lowered the bucket, the babies would squirm and squeal. They devoured the bucket and multiplied by the dozen. Eventually, the babies spilled out over the top, flooding the town until we could no longer walk without tripping over fingers and toes and tummies. We waded through the babies for years, drowning in their trust. This next one is a little prose poem inspired by one of my favorite shows, Taskmaster. So shout out to any of their fans. It's called You're Allowed Just One Phone Call. You're allowed just one phone call after you die. The phone call must last for at least 30 hours, but no more than 5 years. You can only call the last person you shared a meal with. Your conversation must not contain the words love, sorry, or bird. Your conversation must include the words forgive, home, and ballet. All phone calls will be recorded and then erased. The erased recording will be played on your birthday. You cannot laugh while listening to the recording. Failure to adhere to the rules will cost you 10 points. Your time starts now. And then here is a poem that was recently published in Passages North called Thin God. Thin God slipped into the crack in my eyelid, and that was how I came to know my mother. Thin God promised me more time, but I knew Thin God always lied in the morning. Thin God convinced the aliens to cleave a cloud into a boy and a girl. Instead, the aliens created a comedian and a bird. Thin God ate the aliens and gave me a baby. Thin God told me my story had a twist ending, but by the time I fell asleep with the baby in my arms, I forgot I was in a story at all. And then I have a poem in the recent issue of the fairy tale review, and it's called Inside You. Inside you, there are two grandmothers. One is good and one is evil. One is old and one is dead. The old one knits a red cloak while the dead one caws 3 times. They rock back and forth in your stomach like a hunger pang. You remember that there is a way to get rid of grandmothers. You fable them, stick them full of silver coins, and bury them in the oven. All that is left is the perfume of ginger, the taste of salt on your tongue. And kind of going along with the fairy tale theme, this next one is an unpublished poem, and it's part of a chapbook I'm working on that's kind of like a mix of Western and Chinese folklore. So this poem is called Dear Jade Emperor. When I came upon the house made of straw, I set fire to it. When I came upon the house made of sticks, I set fire to it. When I came upon the house made of white jade, I wrangled it into my mouth like a set of teeth and set fire to it. Is this what you meant by immortality? And then finally, here are some more new poems. And they're all tiny poems, kind of centered around the idea of the city. So this first one is called Density. You walk your home inside your fist. At night, the rain sleeps twice as fast. In your coat pocket are a key and a decoy. It is because of the density, repeating and alone. And this next one is called Fast Casual. The train stops between now and security. Weigh dignity against a neighborhood. Outside, traffic staggers hot. Seek unknown doors. And finally, this one is called Sanitation. I measure my face in units of bus stops. We are no longer smooth and undisturbed. Floating homes always drop careful memories onto sidewalks. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Nice. That was gorgeous. Elena, thank you so much for being here. And that was, again, Elena Zhang, who you can find on the socials. I'm alt tabbing away from the Bruiser website where I was, bragging, trying to keep up with bragging on all y'all's amazing publications and recent work. And it's hard to do because y'all are everywhere and it's so beautiful. But again, that was Elena Zhang, who you can find on Blue Sky at ezhang77, EZHANG77. And keep in mind, again, Elena's got a micro chapbook called The Moon, My Heart from Tiny Wren Lit. So if you go to tinywrenlit.com, tinywrenlit.com, you can find The Moon, My Heart, and keep an ear to the ground for that very exciting new chapbook that Elena is working on, which will be a really, really beautiful event when it happens. Nice. Thank you so much. And yeah, I love getting to this point in the reading, even though it's a bit bittersweet. It is we are introducing our last reader of the night, but it's been a really, really beautiful showing and a really exciting group of folks. I've just been thrilled by the new shit and the beautiful stuff that y'all are choosing to share. And I'm really excited to bring it home with someone, again, who I got to read with in Baltimore, which is a great privilege, in Stephanie Anderson. Stephanie Anderson is a library worker and union organizer in Baltimore, Maryland, and the author of Someone Else's Feelings from Ghost City Press in 2025. More of her work can be found in the likes of Rejection Letters, Burial Magazine, Bruiser, which we just heard about, also Dodo Eraser, Travis's wonderful publication, and the Michigan City Review of Books. She's been making a lot of paper lately. They're at oh, sorry. I always pronounce this weird in my head. The @ is WhoaST Anderson, WHOASTANDERSON. And that's the website at whoastanderson.com and also at whoastanderson on the social medias. I thought it was who, and then I saw the A. So great, great work on my part. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you. That's okay. Everyone gets it wrong, and that's what happens when I make a handle when I'm 13 years old, and stick with it ever since. So, very excited to be here tonight. Since we're running a little ahead of schedule, is it okay if I read a poem from someone else to start myself off? Okay. I like to read from other people if and when I can, when I have enough time. And obviously everyone knows Mary Oliver, but I've been reading through her collection House of Light. Came out in 1990, but I think it was just republished. And I read this poem last night, read it again this morning, and I'd like want to talk to people about it. And I won't turn this into like a book club, poem club, but my DMs are open if anyone wants to talk about this. This is Singapore by Mary Oliver. In Singapore, in the airport, a darkness was ripped from my eyes. In the women's restroom, one compartment stood open. A woman knelt there, washing something in the white bowl. Disgust arched in my stomach, and I felt in my pocket for my ticket. A poem should always have birds in it. Kingfishers, say, with their bold eyes and gaudy wings. Rivers are pleasant, and of course, trees. A waterfall, or if that's not possible, a fountain rising and falling. A person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. When the woman turned, I could not answer her face. Her beauty and her embarrassment struggled together, and neither could win. She smiled, and I smiled. What kind of nonsense is this? Everybody needs a job. Yes, a person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. But first, we must watch her as she stares down at her labor, which is dull enough. She is washing the tops of the airport ashtrays as big as hubcaps with a blue rag. Her small hands turn to metal, scrubbing and rinsing. She does not work slowly nor quickly, but like a river. Her dark hair is like the wing of a bird. I don't doubt for a moment that she loves her life, and I want her to rise up from the crust and the slop and fly down to the river. This probably won't happen. Maybe it will. If the world were only pain and logic, who would want it? Of course, it isn't. Neither do I mean anything miraculous, but only the light that can shine out of a life. I mean the way she unfolded and refolded the blue cloth, the way her smile was only for my sake. I mean the way this poem is filled with trees and birds. And that's Singapore by Mary Oliver. And I'm thinking about that poem a lot as a labor poem from 1990. I'm a union organizer in Baltimore. I just came from an AFL-CIO meeting, so I'm thinking a lot about labor. Anyway, DM's open. I'm happy to talk about it. But moving into some of my own work, um, I write predominantly poetry, sometimes creative nonfiction, and admittedly, I've been in a bit of a dry spell for the past 6 months or so, as I have been writing less poems and more cover letters. So it goes. So I'm digging out some older stuff today, some newer, some older. It's the way it goes. So I'm gonna get right into it. This first one is called Sinking Feeling. It was published in Be About It. A man throws a beer over his neighbor's fence and sinks it in their pool. A man throws himself in the neighbor's pool and lands in their divorce. My father pretends to be his father to tell me if he's proud. A man collapses at 30,000 feet, and I am useless in emergencies. A chair sinks through a window, and I am left with my hands and the glass. I can't think of a time I was told there would be times like anything, let alone like this. That is largely a poem about having an active assailant in the workplace and falling out from that. Anyway, this next one is for something totally different. This is new. Um, I write a lot, I think, about emotions and having emotions. I'll get into that a little more later, but here's one that the title is just an @ sign. So at one cell thick, it's all floods to me. Rumors breeze of rain, and I am swelled past saturation, destructured, disintegrating scent of green, rivering muck, never called soft without gone in front of it. This next part is something real. Once I was stuck behind the back of one girl striking another on the spine to fix her posture, cross-legged on the rug. fist closed, so I've always been on the outside, up to my ankles in pulp. I read Robin Wall Kimmerer. She was the author of Braiding Sweetgrass. She also had a book about moss. And one detail about a species of moss she was talking about is that the actual tangible moss leaf is one cell thick, which is how they are so easily able to survive being dehydrated. And as soon as they are dunked in water, they can rehydrate. So I was thinking a bit about moss with that one, at one cell thick. Anyway, next. um, this one was published in Bruiser. I also, in addition to writing a lot about emotions, that led me to writing a lot about cars. And I'm sparing most of my car poems today, but you can find many of them around the internet. This one is called The Prize. It is a somewhat half reconstruction of a childhood memory that I think is false and fake. I don't think it actually happened. Anyway, The Prize. There's always a bank by a grocery store and a liquor store and cheap takeout or a diner if you're lucky that the town is always named after. They all share one parking lot and hold beach volleyball tournaments every summer. So when they glance across the asphalt in the mornings before work, they can feign sharp territorial rivalry over their dingy beige strip mall, like their grandfathers always dreamed for them. When my grandfather dreamed for me, he saw chess mastery, business flats, bank managers, and I don't know, a great golden glow or something. When the workers park their cars one early morning, they see, by the drive up to the ATM, a bony rail of deer swaying with the beat of passing traffic, matted body backlit by beige rising sun, somehow on its feet, though deeply bruised, one eye dropping from its socket. Okay, for another one that is moody, per usual. This is Portrait of a Portrait of a Portrait, written after the movie Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is one of the only films that makes me cry every time I watch it. So I had to do something with that. It was published, and then at some point last month, the magazine decided to unplug themselves from the internet unceremoniously. So I want to read it out loud. This is Portrait of a Portrait of a Portrait. Bold algae smudges the canvas creases of my palms when I find damp ground is the only thing in reach again. Another dashing chalk outline, a few degrees removed from transposition of a memory of a truth, like tangled winds snapped across dry squares of lip, full distortion of a slurred body hurtling itself towards the edge and remembering to stop. Everyone forgets. Orpheus still made it there and back himself as someone more than his mistakes. But misremembering doesn't hold against black film sludged between the filters of translation, disintegrating meaning completely. Okay. Next, I'm going to read two poems from my micro chap, Someone Else's Feelings, which came out with Ghost City Press last summer. Tom was one of the readers. Thank you, Tom, for any influence you had in choosing this. Um, I also tried to print it out on I've been making a lot of paper. It's a lot of fun. And I tried to print it out on my homemade paper, and it takes ink beautifully, but does not print straight whatsoever. But it looks like this. I made the cover myself. Yay. Um, and Someone Else's Feelings, I started writing, I think, at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024 or so. And long and short, um, part of why I think I write about emotions abstractly, having them, not having them, whatever, is because historically I have not felt my emotions very strongly. And then something happened and I like had this really heightened emotional response to something that didn't happen to me. And so I was trying to sift through why that was happening, what that meant, what it meant in terms of like feelings in conjunction with identity and how our identities are composed of the people around us. And anyway, and I wrote this micro chap of poems and collage. I go City Breath put it out, which is cool. And so I realized when I was putting set together for tonight, I've actually never read anything from this chap out loud ever. So I'm gonna do it. Um, So, two of the poems that are the easiest to read out loud because some of them are a bit experimental. This one is called After You! Exclamation point. Who are we, if not everyone we've ever known? Well, what great American pastiche rearranged the constellation of bytes in my birth chart to tell me what to tell me about telling me to have told me to whisper platitudes of, yes, this thought belongs to you. What else could produce such gnarled sinews, wrenching shapes from the handmade magazine of desires? In what it looks like, well, it looks kind of like the ghosts of every hand that's been pressed into what skin you might have started with. And if the someones you look like they like, whatever this is, you'll like it too, right? Isn't it that a gift given freely is twice as powerful? Well, what happens if I'm grave robbed bones locked into place? Um, and then this next one, before it was in my microchap, it was published by Genre Punk. And they were so kind as to nominate it for Best of the Net, which was very cool and kind. This is every line here is in alphabetical order, and they are all formatted as a checklist. In Google Docs, if you check something off in a checklist, it becomes a strike through line, but it doesn't go away. So really, the checklist part is meaningless, but you're welcome to fiddle with it if you feel so inclined. Anyway, this is check all that apply. Agender, and blood streaming through my lips, prickling like fat-bodied bees. But better now. Buy yourself something amorphous. It'll help with the something of it. Canine. Dead pet store fish, gentle buoy, coming home in the water filter. Demand a man 40 years older than you to hold eye contact. He looks away first. You win. Don't think about how fish have parents too. Even storm gales can't rip this eyelash from my fingertip. Nothing comes true. Female, genderless, get lost or something. God's teeth glitter in the metal tray, stainless white like an absinthe. Have you scried your pupils lately? Her eyes were brown. His eyes are brown too. How long did you think it would last? And what do you know about rot? I am a tightly wound braid of wanting things that are impossible to ask for. I bundle sticks in my hands and tie them in a ribbon. Now she is a doll. I can't process this alone. I don't think that's how this works. I find community loitering in door frames. The room is fuzzy, sludge under my fingers. How many colors under the lamplight? I should count them. I want this to have never happened. I want you to still be here. I want to be king of the dumpsters if my eyes can handle the fresh juices of rot. Incisors, male, minimum 20 minutes. Molars, more if you can. My doll and I, we, negative, no, non-binary, none, not disclosed, not to me, other, pass. Pixels burnt into your eyelids. Feels nice, right? Positive. Prefer not to say. Premolars. Pull some tarot first and ruminate on it. She is subjective. She knows this. She shows me what I want to see in rotoscope, and it looks just like I remembered. She's told me all about you. Smash. Sorry, I don't give out medical advice. The illusion of voice catches a snippet of your ear. There is no longer a you. There never has been to me. They're pearls. This is a public library. This will never be you. Unknown. Wisdom. Yes. You are a spirit stuck in the internet. You should never have been trapped like this. All right. Very last one. And amongst all of the downers, this one's maybe a little bit of a happier note to end on. So thank you so much, Tom, for having me. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Travis, Elena, Matt. I loved hearing all of you. Anyway, okay. Last one. This one is called Paint Chips. I went to Home Depot and started making poems out of all of the paint colors. So Paint Chips is not a final name, but here we go. Stoic, winter dawn, city steam, perfect backdrop. Tell me a secret, skywriter. kindness, moonshot, awakening, daybreak beckons. And that's it. Thank you guys so much.
What a beautiful way to send it off. That was Stephanie Anderson. I got to hear my favorite Stephanie Anderson poem. I went back to a little spreadsheet that me and Gabby were using, and I was like, it's like, yep, check all that apply rules. It's like right in there because it's such a good poem. That again was Stephanie Anderson, who you just heard from a really beautiful chapbook that's linked in the Zoom chat or micro chat that I hope you check out called Someone Else's Feelings. And Stephanie is on the Insta or on the various social medias at again that wonderful handle that I will say correctly the first time this time, which is Whoa ST Anderson, WHOASTANDERSON, and all the socials, and also whoastanderson.com to keep up with all the great stuff Stephanie's up to. Also, big shout out. I always ask the readers, like, what would you like to shout out? And Stephanie wanted to shout out the wonderful Fifth Wheel Press and the Monarch Queer Literary Award. Stephanie reads for both of those, and Monarch is an editor nominated award opening again in September. Their first award issue is available to purchase on Asterism, so you can find out more about that at monarch.gay, which is the URL of the evening. That's pretty good. How do you beat that? Amazing. Well, this was an absolutely gorgeous reading, y'all. I really want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart to our readers. Again, thank you so much, Nat, Travis, Elena, and Stephanie. It was a real privilege to hear you work. And then, yeah, I saw like there's so much in common in terms of where y'all's work have been. The Baltimore rep, ZH is in the chat saying, yeah, we got all contributors and one future contributor here for Burial Magazine, which is super awesome. Again, just want to say thank you so much for being here, and thank you listeners for being here as well. If you've given like an hour of your life to poetry, that means a lot, whether you're here in the Zoom with us, blowing up the chat and using your little heart reacts, or if you're listening on YouTube. Thank you so much. Your support means the world. I hope that you might be able to join for our next reading. We have a really exciting next reading coming up. It's going to be on May 21st. It's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is really wild because it's going to be an international reading. We're going to have some UK, EU, readers from all over the world, which is going to be incredibly exciting, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. But we also always end Nightlight readings with a poem, so I'm really excited. I'm going to read a poem by my friend Steve Scafidi. It was in the Rumpus's Poetry Month thing that's happening, and it knocked me completely flat. So I'm going to read it. Again, this is a poem by Steve Scafidi. It's called Some Things I Don't Want to Do. Include walking on a tightrope over a waterfall, waking in the morning some days, or living at all occasionally. The snapping turtle underground in winter slows down its heart rate to nothing almost, a sound like snow falling in a pond when the desire to be grows so faint it is the setting down of a teacup by a mouse in the pantry, a lady mouse between chores, her laundry spread between chairs in the small kitchen of her life. The black snake blinks and she hears it coming her way through the walls. In the cancer ward, my friend waited for his energies to return, his words like eglantine and diaphanous to have a purpose other than to speak of little pink funeral roses or the see-through gown of ghosts the dead wear so crisp. And then he died asking for his mother 12 times as if from a list of his 12 favorite people. I don't want to not be here if my children ever need me like this. Oh, let the fear of life thaw away enough I can dig out from the mud like the turtle in spring, starved and clawing, the sun wild in my blood. Let the fear of death come apart in my hands like bread for the table, enough for us all.